what is the point of all this scientific evidence about God, the creator, or even the tooth fairy, when all this is supposed to be about faith? It shouldn't be about anything else.
I'm not saying that faith has no place in this. Faith has a very important place in our experience as Christians, but it doesn't mean that the faith is just simply hopeful thinking and wishful thinking, but rather that faith can be grounded in reason, it can be grounded in historical fact, and can be grounded in high scientific fact as well. And you know, it's interesting because when you look at Scripture, it doesn't seem as if the Bible is advocating, again, just believing in God on a whim. You know, for example, Paul in his writings talks about how critical it is that the resurrection took place. And he points out that there were 500 people who witnessed the resurrected Christ. And he's writing it in such a way that the people who are receiving the letter, this is to the church in Corinth, that they could basically make contact with these people and determine whether or not Paul was indeed true. But he was making the point that if the resurrection is not a historical fact, then we are to be pitied among all people. And it's interesting, too, for example, when you look at Jesus and how he operated. One of my favorite passages is when Jesus raises Lazarus from the dead. Jesus is away from Lazarus. Lazarus gets sick and he dies. And he gets word that Lazarus is sick. And he doesn't go to him. And he basically says, you know, that it's good that I'm not going to Lazarus and to heal him. And so he basically goes to Lazarus after he dies. And, you know, Mary comes up to him and he says, who do you say that I am? Do you believe that I am the resurrection? And she says, yes, Lord. And then he raises Lazarus from the dead. So here's essentially where Jesus performing this miracle to essentially establish the fact of who he is, and that there is going to be a resurrection that resides with Jesus. And so Jesus isn't asking Mary to believe blindly, but that belief is being established through his performance of that particular miracle. And you see that as well when Jesus performs other miracles, as he is establishing in an evidential way who he is and buttressing his claims. And so I don't think Jesus would agree with your statements necessarily either.